For some reason, I'm like, how am I supposed to start this podcast? Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Eventual Knits podcast. My name is Leah, also known as Miss LJV on Instagram and Eventual on Ravelry. Today is Friday, October 6th, 2023. And I am coming to you today on a super windy day. Very windy. And it's such like a weird temperature. Actually, it's one of those things where like before having a kid, Steve and I were very much like, let's see how cold this house can get before we turn on the heat. And now it's like, okay, we have to like maintain some kind of homeostasis so that our child does not, freeze to death or overheat. And it is interesting to think about because it's like, I'm hot. I'm so hot. I am wearing the Autumn Mist shawl by Lisa K. Ross, also known as Paper Daisy Creations. And I feel like, yes, the camera is very much like dulling the color. This is a Miss Babs yarn, and this is a shawl I did for Lisa in 2020. I don't think it was a test. It might have been. I've done several tests for Lisa before, so I can't remember if it actually was a test or not, but this was super fun. It's really simple. It's just Miss Babs' kits had had a gradient of the solid and then a secondary mohair. So each of the colors is just a garter and then a stockinette with the mohair. So it was a really fun knit. It was one of those things where like this must not have been a test, because I remember like losing track of how many stitches I had or what the repeats in the short rows were, and it didn't matter because I just wanted to use all the yarn anyway, and so I ended up just using all the yarn, and it made this like cute little like twirl effect. I don't know if you can see it now, but maybe I can put a picture in that shows the twirl. But this is a really beautiful fall shawl to wear, but it's also quite warm. But yeah, finished projects, let's start there. I do have one. I have one. Where did it go? Oh, it's right on my lap. I finished my Boneyard Sweethearts test for Stephanie Lotvin. Woo! Woo! It is so beautiful. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already, I'm sure, probably seen pictures of the glow effect, but if not, I will definitely include one here. And it's so good. Of course, the picture, I will be honest, the photograph, of course, enhances the glow. I am sure you have all seen things that glow in the dark. And of course, it glows really nicely and probably looks fantastic in a black light, but it doesn't glow that intensely. But it looks fantastic in photographs, so, this is the size 2 that I tested. The recipient is one of my friends, my friend Sean, and this is the size that should fit them. The body, Stephanie Lotvin asked to knit 10 inches, and I knit, including the hem, 15, and I did 2 inches for the ribbing so that it doesn't flip up. And then for the sleeve, I'm assuming because of how long the yoke is, and it's like, is this considered a drop shoulder? But because of how long the yoke is, the sleeve is also shorter. So I ended up knitting, instead of 9.5 inches, I knit 11 inches before the color work on each sleeve, and then again did 1.5 to 2 inches on the ribbing. I didn't size down needle sizes, even though I do knit quite loosely on color work, which is the opposite, I think, of what most people do. I think most people knit extra tight on color work, and so they tend to have you size up a needle size or really encourage you to try to loosen up. And I think I'm too good at knitting loosely, and so it ends up bigger than it should, or like wider. However, this fingering weight, this green is a fingering weight yarn from Cascade held together, so it's about a worsted. The pattern is DK, and the white is a Line Brand. It's called Line Brand DIY Glow, and it is a polyester yarn, I think, and it is a worsted, so that also contributes to the size differential. But the main color and then the background, which is a slightly different color, you can see, there you go, is Barocco, which is a DK. This is an adorable sweater. I can't wait till they get it and put it on and send pictures to me so I can actually show what the recipient actually looks like wearing it. But yeah, this is a super, super fun knit, and the size needles that are recommended, or the needles to get gauge, are size 5 for the main body and size 4 for the ribbing. So just standard DK needle sizes, and I mean, it's up pretty quick. I finished it in just a couple weeks, I think. Let's see. Yeah, I started it on September 14th and I finished it on October 1st. So I know it's the second smallest size, but I feel like it probably wouldn't have taken me all that much longer doing a bigger size. And actually, I mean, we'll be kind of testing that out. That might come up a little bit later, but I'm gonna set that aside for now. But yeah, that's the Boneyard Sweetheart sweater, and I believe it will be coming out this month. So keep an eye out for it if you want to make it and be a sweater twin. The next thing that I am, I don't want to say finished, but I like to say finished, is the next row of my temperature blanket for Quinn. So Quinn is my almost 6-month-old son, and I have been working on a temperature blanket for his birth year. And I definitely lied to you last time. I think I just re-showed the same row, but thinking it was a new row. I actually think in, not last podcast, but the previous one, I talked about the dates and kept calling, maybe did I do 2 extra rows? Yeah, I think I did a couple more rows. I think I kept calling this September 1st and it was August 1st. And so 2 podcasts ago, I cut that part out. And then last podcast, I forgot, and I thought I had made more progress on it, but I didn't. I just made the circles. And so I called this September 1st, but it is August 1st. So we had a couple really hot days in August, 1st of August. And then this is September 1st. So what I had last time then was this row. And so I have done 2, wait, which way am I going? I think I did 2 more rows. So I think that I did this row and this row previous, and then I did this one, and I have got the circles on for the next row. So it's actually kind of cool because you get to see how I'm doing the circles. No one followed up with me and let me know of a way to do the continuous join as you go effectively. So maybe there's with the way that I'm doing it, but that's okay. So as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I haven't finished all the circles. I've gotten all the circles but 4 on for the next row. So you just sort of go across the top and do two of the rows, and then you end up coming back and finishing each corner. And it's been getting a little bit cooler some days in September. So this sort of yellowy is, let's go backwards, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, high of 50s a few days in September. We also had some really hot days in September. I mean, come on, why do we have some reds here? Really hot days. And I live in Minnesota, and so it's like, but it has been pretty summery, still feeling for fall. And I mean, that's been the case for the last, decade or more because of global warming, but it is still weird. I still, like, today is a very fall day where it's blustery and it's cloudy and it's cool. But anyway, so I have almost all of September done. Yeah, almost all of September done, and part of October started, I think. So
not on here, but on the circles. So yeah, you look at this. Look at this. There's only a quarter left. There's only 3 months left in this year, and I'll have done this whole thing, and I'm not even like actually behind. I'm still like blown away that I don't have to like in December do 6 months all at once. So I'm really excited for how that will turn out when it's finished. And that's really all the things that I have finished. I mean, again, technically I'm not finished with the blanket, but I count each row as a finish or a beat. For working on, I am crocheting this blanket. I'm crocheting it with a J hook, and I'm using DK yarn. Now I'm like, was I using worsted weight? Well, let me see, actually. I have it in my projects. So it should be worsted. Oh, that's so funny. I believe the last 2 times I've gone to the yarn store, I've grabbed a DK for the main color. And I remember feeling like, whoa, this is like, feels finer, but I just assumed I was like pulling the yarn tighter. That is so freaking funny. So yes, if Broca Vintage, I believe, is a worsted. I should be using a worsted weight yarn for the main color. Oh well. And I'm using a J hook for that, which is, oh, I don't have it on here, how many millimeters that is. Is that 6? I think 6 millimeters. And I am using my Furls crochet hook. So I misplaced. So Furls crochet, if you don't know, makes resin hooks, and when I first started crocheting, they really appealed to me, and I found them through TL Yarn Crafts, and they appealed to me because crochet really hurt my wrist at the time. And not that crafting doesn't hurt my wrists altogether, but at the time, for some reason, like holding a metal, just like the boy hooks was really hard on my hands. And so I bought several Furls crochet hooks, and they are definitely the most gentle hooks on my hands. I do really like them. I also like the way that they hold the yarn. I feel like my tension is really good with them. Whoa, the power just blipped. Now I can't remember what kind of hook they are, but there is another kind of hook that has been really highly loved by people, and it's like the hook is white and it's a plastic, and then the bottom half, the handle, is like a spotted like light neon or whatever pastel-y kind of color. I'll put what kind it is, or maybe put a picture in. But when I misplaced my J hook for a while, I was using that one, and I hated it with this yarn. It was too catchy. It did not slip nicely. It felt very sticky to me. Like I just don't like it. I mean, maybe I'm similar with crochet as I am with knitting, where I just really like a smooth, quick experience. Oh yeah, it's raining. So there must have been lightning. A smooth experience and not a sticky experience, which is why I love metal hooks, or metal needles, because it slides so quickly, and I also like really sharp. I want to be able to just get in there really nicely. I don't know, I don't like dull. I want sharp, and I don't like sticky. I want fast. So anyway, however, since I've started kind of doing a little bit of amigurumi, I have bought another set. Like, when I first started crocheting, I bought, a set of the boy aluminum hooks or whatever, and then I ended up getting rid of them when I bought a bunch of the boy the Furls crochet hooks, sorry. And Furls crochet hooks are really expensive. They're like $30 per hook. That's insane. I would not buy one now, but back then, when I was spending a lot more money than I probably should have on like yarn and crafty stuff all at once, I bought several of them, so I'm pretty well set, although they do break really easily, which is super annoying. You have to be very careful not to break them. But anyway, so I like those. And then once I started the amigurumi, when the person who taught me how to do amigurumi, or I shouldn't say taught me, but just like pushed me to do it. They are a high schooler and are a little sister for the Big Sister Little Sister Big Sister program that one of my friends is in. And my friend was like, hey, they're trying to crochet this amigurumi, but they're not really sure how to read the pattern, so could you help? And I was like, ooh, I don't know, and maybe crochet patterns are really confusing to me, but I can try. And we ended up it was I think a purchased pattern maybe, but it was for a doll, and so we were working on the head, and I borrowed one of their crochet hooks to be able to do the same thing at the same time, because I didn't bring any for some reason. And I realized, like, hey, this is not so bad. I can use these metal hooks. They're not hurting my fingers or my hands or my wrists the way that they used to. And so I went and bought another set to specifically do amigurumi with, because I really liked the way that the yarn felt. And maybe it's like the difference between like a full acrylic and acrylic wool blend. That might be part of it too. Anyway, yeah, so that's those things. The next thing that I'm working on that I'm almost done with is my second sock. This is a Knit Circus yarn. It's a vanilla sock, so I have no pattern. I just knit until I just follow my own general recipe. I find it so funny how intense a lot of people are about like, and this is not like a call out. This is just like, it's just very interesting. But Nitty Natty, for example, counts how many rows she does on like the leg and the foot. And I feel like my tension is really consistent, but I still don't think I necessarily knit the same number of rows exactly, and I'm also not that nitpicky. I just sort of like eyeball things, and it seems to work out really well. And also I think it just makes it a more enjoyable experience for me, not trying to be a perfectionist about it. And it took me a while, and I think this is probably the case for most knitters when they start out, or crafters in general probably. Maybe knitting more than crochet, because crochet is so much more free form, I kind of feel like, whereas knitting is, like printing, right? Like, and it's just like these neat little rows always. And so maybe people who are more drawn to knitting might be a little bit more perfectionistic. But listening to like Yarn Harlot when I was more beginner knitter, and by listening to, I mean I listened to some of her audiobooks, and then I read several of her books as well. She talks so much about how she's been knitting for years and years and years and still makes mistakes all the time, and how it's so frustrating, and like she is very comedic, so right, so she's very self-deprecating and like trying to let that go, but also burning herself and all that kind of stuff. But I found that not getting super frustrated or not being perfectionistic makes knitting so much better. And it's like, who cares if you make a tiny mistake? Like, okay, yes, let's say that you drop a stitch right in the middle of your the front of your sweater. That sucks. That's really annoying. You should probably go back and fix that because you don't want to be looking at a mistake that upsets you the whole time. But like really small mistakes, like I always talk about how it's just easy to like forget and make mistakes on like a gusset decrease, where you like, oh, I accidentally skipped a decrease, and so I need to do 2 decreases in a row. Like stuff like that doesn't impact the final product. And like Nitty Natty recently got a question where it asked, how do you prevent holes in the underarm? And the answer is you can't prevent holes in your underarm. No matter people who say you can, like maybe there's like a really wild technique I just don't know about, but you're going to start with holes, and then you're going to learn techniques to do your best to mitigate those holes, but there will still always be some gaps just by the nature of how you pick up the stitches. And so you just know that you're going to go back and you're going to weave in extra yarn to close up those holes, you know? And you just sort of get your own technique, and you start to feel good about how it ends up looking. And once you start wearing it, literally no one's gonna notice it. You're not even gonna notice it. You just do your best, and then you just get better. And I remember when I first started knitting sweaters, I was like, what the hell? Like, why are there these big gaps? What am I doing wrong? And it turns out you're not doing anything wrong. That's just the nature of knitting, and you learn how to compensate for that. So anyway, my point of all that is that for my sock, I don't know how long to knit the foot. It's one of those things where I know how long my foot is, and in the past I realized that I was knitting to like the exact length of my foot, and that's not how socks work. You need to have negative ease for socks, otherwise they stretch out too much. And so I'm just sort of eyeballing like how long. I don't even think I've tried on the sock that I finished. It's in the car now because I was holding them up. See, again, I just hold them up and I'm like, yeah, that looks like where the decreases started on the other sock, so I'm gonna start the decreases on this sock. So anyway, I've started the decreases on this sock. I think it will be perfectly fine, the length that it's going to be. It's gonna stretch just fine. As I had said for the other yarn, I'm not even gonna get to use the last color, and I'm barely gonna get to use this pink. But at least it's the inverse of the previous sock, and I'm excited to show you the final product next time. These are being knit on my size 1 Chagu double points. I prefer to knit socks on a Chagu 9-inch circular, but I realized my foot circumference is not 9 inches, it is less than that, and so the socks end up too big for me. I can use the 9-inch circular for Steve's foot. That provides a good amount of negative ease, and probably for a standard woman's foot, like a US shoe size 8 or 9, probably a 9-inch circular would be good for. But I am like a 6.5, 7 US, and my feet are not like super narrow, but decently narrow, and so unfortunately I just had to suck it up and use the double points, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. I used to lament it, but it's really just because it's just a little bit less fast, a little bit more fiddly, but I do quite enjoy knitting socks, so this is going well. Oh yeah, actually I'll save the best for last. I started 2 new projects. I love the Halloween season. I love it so much. It's so fun to knit for. I have so many like Halloween themed socks, and a couple cowls, and a couple just generally fall themed shawls. I started a stranded sweater, the Arachne sweater, a couple years ago, and ended up ripping it out because I was just super not in the mood for stranded knitting at the time because I didn't want to catch floats. But I would knit it, especially with that glow-in-the-dark yarn now. But anyway, I started a new pattern. It is called the Spooky Nights Beanie. I'm seeing who it's by, because I actually found out about it from the yarn dyer. Spooky Night Beanie by Erin Gates, and it is a worsted weight hat, and I started the brim. So the brim needs to be 6.5 inches long because it's going to be a folded brim, and it's showing up cooler on camera. It's probably also getting messed with by the other purple. It's much warmer. It is a yarn kit that I got from Knit Circus specifically for this pattern. So Knit Circus often will find patterns and then make kits for those patterns, but not necessarily collaborate with that designer at all. So they'll be like, buy this yarn, but you also have to buy the pattern, which, I mean, support both, you should. But anyway, this is Ringmaster yarn. It's merino, and it is a worsted weight yarn. It is 277 yards for 150 grams because it came in a kit. So they put in enough yarn for the beanie itself, and this is a sort of cream white and black,
And the colorways themselves are 3 individual ones. They are the Sensible Mrs. Dashwood, Quoth the Raven, and Creamy Sheep. And I bet you can guess which color goes to which. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's so squishy. I love it. The brim is being knit on a size 6, and the main hat is full color work. It's honestly not that different from the Boneyard Sweethearts, but it's just ghosts. But it's the ghosts are a different style than the Boneyard Sweethearts. But yeah, the color work is knit in a size 8. I might knit it in a 7. So I'm knitting the recommended needle here. I never gauge swatch. I don't care about gauge swatching. I truly don't care about gauge swatching. I will figure it out. I'm too impatient. The answer is no. So what I did was I'm using the recommended needle for the brim. However, it said that you can adjust the circumference in sets of 10. So I cut down the brim by 10 because I have a really small head. So I cut down the brim size by 10 stitches, and I feel like that should be perfectly adequate to make it the size for my head, because it said the final beanie will be, it said it would be 18 inches, and again, I just know that my gauge is always looser. It just is. It's never not been looser than the pattern designer. So I'm like, okay, well, if their final product is going to be 18 inches, my head circumference is 20 and a half. So generally you want like 2 inches of negative ease on a hat. And so if I cut 10 stitches out and then size down for the main body, that'll probably give me the outcome that I was looking for with an 18-inch circumference. Does that make sense? I feel like it makes sense. So, I mean, it always works out for me. So I'm really good at like guessing for my own size specifically. So I'm really excited. This is knitting up super quickly. I just knit this up in like the last 45 minutes before I went to bed yesterday. And then I'm probably going to keep working on this tonight because it's so fun and squishy. I store all of my needles in like those like pencil pouches, like the big ones, like that you could like put in a trapper keeper. That's like the best way that I found to store all my needles, because I use almost exclusively circular needles, and then I have I have one separate ChowGoo double points for the smaller sizes. I think it's like 0s or maybe double 0s to 3 maybe. And then I have like a few random sets of double points in like other sizes, but for the most part I've been able to replace all of my double points with circulars. And the only problem is that they get tangled on each other when you're trying to pull them out of the cases, and then you end up like pulling out like 4 different lengths at the same time, and then I'm in a hurry and I am just very it's like I hate to give myself an actual diagnosis because I don't have a diagnosis of ADHD, but it's just like I'm very much like I have to I'm doing this thing, I can't stop, I don't have time. Like I get very like that, and so then my needles sort of just end up all over the place. And last night I sat down and I finally resorted all of my needles back into their appropriate cases, and I had some in like a smaller like square case set that I had bought a long time ago. And again, it's like the amount of money that I've spent on things is so ridiculous sometimes, but I think for that set of them it was like $50 or $35 or something, and they were immediately too small for the amount of needles that I had for some sizes, and I needed a rectangle, I needed more space. So I took most of them out of there and put them in more trapper keepers that I've just had for a long time and just hadn't sorted into yet. And when I was sorting them, I was like, damn, these needles are gigantic. What size are they? And they're like size 8s. I've been knitting with, 6s and lower for so long these days that anything 6 and above is really big to me. And it's like, whoa, this hat's gonna knit up so fast. I think every time I go back to a larger yarn weight, like especially if I start, let's say, like if I want to knit a sweater in a worsted weight, I
I'm like, oh my God, I need to just knit everything in a worsted weight or bigger because it's so fast. But then when I knit a fingering weight sweater, I'm like, oh, this is so like delicate and decadent. I'm gonna always knit everything in fingering. And I mean, you know, the vast majority of my yarn is fingering weight, but I have a decent amount of DK as well. So it is just funny. I just love all kinds. I do the same thing with socks. I typically knit top-down socks because it's way easier for me to remember the heel flap and gusset instructions. Like I just know them by heart, and I have knit less socks toe up. But every time I do knit toe up socks, I'm like, oh, I love this. I'm never going back to top down. But then I invariably go back to top down because they're both great. Both ways are good. Okay. Last thing for my knitting. I have started another Boneyard Sweethearts. So this one's for me, and I am so hyped for it so far. Look at these colors. Also the skeletons, because they're bigger, because my size is bigger, the chart is different, and so that's fun. It just has, you know, just additional segments and stuff. It's so fun. So I am knitting myself the size 4, which I think is supposed to result in a 44-inch bust, and I have more of a 40-inch bust. It wants 2 to 6 inches of positive ease, and I like everything looser anyway. But yeah, so that's the size that I'm knitting for myself. What's really annoying is my collar is only supposed to be 4 stitches more than, let's say, Sean's size, but it's coming out way bigger. And it might have been the fact that I started with a larger circumference needle, but it's like, ugh. So I'm probably gonna end up crocheting slip stitch around it to cinch it back up. I love a good crew neck. Love a good crew neck. I hate, like, boat neck is fine sometimes, but I really hate how big around a lot of my circumferences end up on my sweater. But the yarns that I am using for this, they're all great. Well, the black is Broca Vintage DK, and then, which is the background, and then the white, of course, is Lion Brand DIY Glow, which is a worsted. But the main color, the green, oh yeah, I have it. It's Fiber Nymph Dye Works. I've had this yarn for so long. I bought this yarn, and then also this pinky red yarn at the same time. I love Fiber Nymph Dye Works tweed so much. Yeah, this is Mountain Tweed, and it's like a limey green, and it is gorgeous and beautiful, and I love the little neps. And then the accent color here, the color 1, is a really rich purple, and that is Onyx Fiber Arts DK The Sky Was All Purple, and it's just a one-off skein that I bought. It was gorgeous, and I'm really excited to use it in this sweater because of it being so variegated, or so, you know, I don't even call it tonal. I don't think it is. It's coming in really nicely, and then it has like little pops of like red and brown and pink, and yeah, it's just so pretty. So it gives it just like an additional kind of depth. So yeah, I'm already this far. I mean, of course I have to do the full skeleton body and the ghost, but still, I'm loving it. So hopefully I'll have that done by Halloween, and hopefully eventually Sean can visit, and then we can get a picture together with our Boneyard Sweetheart sweaters, and then any of you who knit yours can get pictures, and we can all be Boneyard Sweetheart twins. I'm knitting this on the same size needles, I believe, size 5s. Yeah, size 5s. Chaogu, red lace. Oh, and these are my what are they called when you can change the sizes? I literally cannot remember. But anyway, I do this all the time where I am knitting and then I'm like, oh, these are my whatevers. I was wondering where the cable went and da-da-da-da, you know. Or like, oh, I've noticed that my case was missing these size 5s for quite a long time. Where did they come from? My app is telling me that my son has woken up from his nap really early. Let me check on that. All right, it in fact was him waking up from his nap, but it wasn't as early as I thought it was. He'd been asleep for an hour, so it wasn't that big of a deal. One thing you don't realize is you're like, oh, the baby naps for an hour, or let's say even 2 hours. It's like, yeah, but the clock literally starts the second you put them in there. Like, a half an hour, if he sleeps for a short nap, is literally enough time to do nothing. Like pee, maybe, like go to the bathroom, like maybe sneak in a shower. No. One thing my partner and I have been really good about is making sure the other person gets a shower. That was something we instituted from day one, because it was like, in the really dark days, it was like the only reprieve either of us got. So it was like we needed to make sure that the other person got to shower. But I also kind of feel like we are maybe a little bit unusual in that, like, we are very egalitarian in everything in life. And so, like, for the most part, we really split like baby duty 50-50, and honestly a lot of the time are together. Like, we like to be together, so we spend our time together, and other people are like, you should take shifts. It's like, we do on the weekends for a full day, but other than that, we want to be together. So it's like, maybe it's a little inefficient, but who cares? Yeah, I think that was it for knitting stuff. I guess it's like, so I have the 2 new patterns started. It's starting just very quickly. Like, it was like 80s, 85, like 2 days ago, and today it was like 50. So, I'm going to knit Quinn some more hats. He needs a warmer hat. I feel like I want to make him like, something maybe like the Musselburgh, where, it's like double thick or maybe double brimmed or something like that. I have a cat down here. Oh, in the meantime, we went to the mall. And we have a very spitty child. It's like, are you teething again? Not sure what's going on there, but, yeah, so I want to knit him that either like similar to the hat I'm working on for myself, where the brim is really long so you fold it up, or a Musselburgh where it's just like you knit a whole cinch tube and then tuck it in itself, and then put it together and then flip the brim up. Maybe something like that for him. Sorry if you can hear that, that's the cat rubbing on a box. But yeah, that's like the other thing I really want to start. Baby hats are so, Graham, please stop. Baby hats are so quick, so I want to like whip one of those up, but it's like, you gotta also take advantage of the spooky season, so it's like this balance. I did get our Halloween decorations up. That's nice. Nice little like fall decor. Let's see, do I have anything within view? Oh, little pumpkin right here. Yeah, that's always fun. We love to like decorate for the season. We have more stuff, I feel like, for Christmas, but we have a decent amount of stuff for the fall. And then what else? I feel like nothing super major. I go back to work full time. Not next week, but next week it's like kind of starting. So like I have Monday off, but then I'm working Friday, and then after that it's full time. And we'll see how that goes. Quinn turns 6 months on the 16th, so that's soon. And he's still going to be home 2 days a week because, especially with student loans coming due this month, we do not have a bunch of extra funds. I truly don't understand how people who don't have two incomes or who don't have very good jobs survive with daycare. I don't get it. It's like, do they just not have student loans? I don't know, because I do forget, like, we have lots of student loans, more than a lot of people. I haven't been reading because I've been knitting, so that's I don't have anything to say about my books. I keep bringing my books places, and then I keep not reading them because I'm knitting. I really should do audiobooks, but I don't want to pay for an Audible membership. I guess I could do Libby. Maybe I could try doing that sometime. If you're interested in my work at all, I established with my boss, like, my goals for this fiscal year, even though the fiscal year started in July. I didn't come back to work until end of July. So, and then now in October is like everyone's mid-year, even though we do our goals in like April. I guess it's 6 months from then, but it's so weird. Anyway, and like, she asked me, what do I want my priorities to be? And one part of it is like, I don't know where I want my career to go. So we want to set aside time for me to like research, like, where I can like expand, like, what am I interested in IT, I guess. That's different from what I do now. The thing is that I like a lot of what I do now, and so it's like, why do I want to do something different? Because a lot of what I do changes. It's like the same, but it's different, right? Like, it's writing new articles, it's giving different presentations, it's answering different questions, it's always new groups, you know, like, so that's like a good amount of variety. But anyway, but I also am now like the main person in charge of our digital accessibility courses, and like, we are not the disability resource center, like, or we are not saying that we are the experts on digital accessibility. We're just the ones who run the courses. So the courses were written in like most of them were written in 2019 and a little bit in 2020. So that's really old for how quickly things change. And I saw the Disability Resource Center with a special guest from Australia, I think, put on a webinar this last week, and it was so good on digital accessibility. And I can't remember the full title, but it said like avoiding neuromyths was the second half of it. And like, he'd like directly contradicted some stuff that's in the courses, and probably some stuff that people still like suggest. Like, for example, one of the things was like, don't use Open Dyslexic. That's not actually helpful. And I can't remember what the other font is, but the font that like makes the first half of the word like a thicker, like a bolder font than the second half of the word. And the reasoning for that has to do with the way that our brain perceives, like, let's say CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, the way that we read them. And it was just so fascinating, and it makes me want to update the courses so bad. So I was like, let's make it a priority. But it takes time. Everything at the university takes time. It was really hard for me to get used to at first after being a teacher, because when you're a teacher, if you're a good teacher, you can like change on the fly. Like, you see something's not working and you change it to make it better, or you see like it's going in a certain direction, so you create new materials to like support that. And as a special ed teacher, I was constantly like pivoting to meet the needs of the students, and while also reaching, standards. And so when I started at the university and I'm like, let's do this, they're like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like, there's all these other stakeholders. Like, I was so bad at like the business acumen. I'm not great now, but I'm better. And so I'm aware that this will take, like, even maybe updating one course, like truly updating it, like overhauling it, like really making it up to date, not just making small changes, will probably take a whole year, because I need to find subject matter experts. I need to meet with them and get their expertise, and like, what should we change, add, remove? Like, that takes a long time. And at the same time, lots of people are taking these courses, so we want them to be up to date and accurate, and we get outside groups asking for our materials, so I want them to not be embarrassing. Oh my god, this cat. So anyway, I do have a vested interest in making things accessible and inclusive and whatever. But I am not the one expert, so I need to get those people. So I'm excited to do that. So that's work. Because it's spooky season, Steve is playing spooky video games all October, and we started a video game called The Quarry. Editing Lee here. If you are afraid of spooky images or you're not interested, skip ahead about 2 minutes. I'm gonna put in some footage.
Okay. Make sure that everybody is inside the lodge for tonight. Lock the doors. No one in, no one out. No one. Got it? I'll be back first thing in the morning, and we'll get you all on the road.
Season has just begun.
I did see a weird light in the treehouse across the lake. That was pretty spooky. Maybe it's your girlfriend, Brian.
The heck of heck, it's Corey.
Did you hear that?
Maybe it was the bears.
And why does everyone blame everything on bears?
Do
Okay.
you got anything better? I mean, like zombies, aliens, time-hopping Draculas.
It's like a choose your own adventure. If you are familiar with Until Dawn was done by the same people, and it's like a choose your own adventure. It follows different characters. The characters can die, and so far The Quarry is like better than Until Dawn because it seems much more nuanced, and I don't know how you even make a game like that. But yeah, it's really exciting and scary. It's so funny because when we start playing scary games, then we both start having nightmares all night, and it's like, why do we do this? But it's been a good time. So once I'm done with this, recording this, and Steve finishes putting Quinn down, we're gonna go play some, and I'm gonna be knitting. It's so nice that we have like this system where I can still experience video games but also knit at the same time, so I don't have to choose one over the other, or as much anyway. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back, and if you are a new viewer, thank you for coming along this goofy journey with me. I will see you probably in a week. And Grim also says hi. See you next time. Bye.